Sweat dripped down Arya Chen's face as she blocked another strike. The training saber hummed against her opponent's weapon, sending vibrations up her arm. Around the practice hall, 20 students from different worlds watched her every move. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking crystals. All of them wanted to learn how humans fought. Arya stepped back and lowered her weapon. Her opponent, a tall insect-like alien named Ratch, clicked his mandibles in what she had learned meant satisfaction. The training session had gone well. She pressed the button on her saber's handle and the glowing blade disappeared. "Good work today," she told the class. "Remember, the weapon is just a tool. Your mind makes the real decisions in combat." A student raised one of her forearms. This was Priel, a being from a water world who wore a special suit filled with liquid. "Instructor Chen, why do you teach blade work?" "We have guns that can shoot across space. Why practice with swords?" Arya had heard this question before. Many aliens found human attachment to old weapons strange. Guns can fail. Energy weapons need power. Blades never run out of charge. Plus, knowing how to fight up close makes you better at understanding distance and timing. Another student spoke up. "This one looked like a bear made of rocks. But these training sabers cannot hurt us. How do we know what real fighting feels like?" The question made Arya pause. She had never been in real combat. All her knowledge came from years of training and studying old human fighting styles. Her family had passed down techniques for generations, but she had only used them in safe practice rooms like this one. "That's a fair point," she admitted. "Training prepares us, but it's not the same as the real thing. The goal is to be ready if that day ever comes." Class ended and the students filed out. Arya walked to her small office at the back of the training hall. On her desk sat a long wooden box. She opened it carefully. Inside lay a sword, its blade gleaming even in the dim light. The metal was folded steel, created using methods that were hundreds of years old. Her great-great-grandmother had carried it. So had many others in her family line. Arya ran her finger along the flat of the blade, careful not to touch the sharp edge. The sword had a name, carved into the wooden handle in old Chinese characters. It meant clear sky. She had brought it with her when she left Earth to join the Stellar Concordance, the alliance of alien worlds that worked together for peace and protection. Humans were new to the Concordance. Only 20 years had passed since first contact. Many aliens still did not understand human culture, or why they held on to traditions like sword fighting. Some thought humans were primitive. Others found them interesting but strange. A knock on her door broke her thoughts. Commander Vrel entered without waiting for an answer. He was a Kryn, a species that stood 8 feet tall and had 4 powerful arms. His skin was deep purple and his eyes were solid black. "Lieutenant Chen," he said in his deep voice, "your class performed well today. I watched from the observation deck." "Thank you, sir," Arya replied. She closed the wooden box quickly, but Vrel had already seen the sword. "Your family weapon," Vrel said. It was not a question. "I have heard that human warriors carry such blades as symbols of honor." "That's right. This sword has been in my family for 200 years. Every generation someone learns to use it and takes care of it." Vrel's expression was hard to read, but his tone seemed thoughtful. "There is wisdom in remembering where you come from. Many species forget their past once they reach the stars. Humans seem to hold on to yours tightly. Is that a bad thing?" Arya asked. "Not bad, just different." Vrel moved toward the door, then stopped. "One day you may need to use that blade for real. Training weapons teach technique, but they do not teach you about weight. The weight of taking a life. The weight of protecting others. When that day comes, your tradition may give you strength, or it may give you doubt." Before Arya could respond, Vrel left. His words stayed with her as she locked the wooden box and placed it back in her locker. She had trained for years. She knew every form, every strike, every defense. But Vrel was right. She had never faced real danger. She had never had to make the choice to hurt someone to protect others. That night, Arya sat in her quarters and thought about her student's question. What did real fighting feel like? Her grandmother had told her stories about the old days on Earth, when the sword had been used in wars and conflicts. Those stories always ended the same way. The sword came home. The person carrying it came home, but they were never quite the same. Arya looked at her hands. They were strong from years of practice. They could move through forms with perfect precision. But had they ever truly been tested? She did not know. Part of her hoped she would never find out. Another part, a smaller, quieter part, wondered if she would be ready when the time came. The training academy floated in space, orbiting a small moon. From her window, Arya could see ships coming and going. Each one carried people learning to protect the Concordance from threats. Pirates, hostile species, and dangers from unexplored space all existed out there. The Concordance had been at peace for 10 years, but everyone knew it would not last forever. Arya wondered what her ancestors would think if they could see her now. Teaching aliens on a space station far from Earth, would they be proud? Would they understand why she still carried their sword? She liked to think they would. The blade was not just a weapon. It was a connection to everyone who had carried it before. It reminded her that she came from a long line of people who had faced fear and kept going. Tomorrow would bring another day of training. More students asking questions, more practice with safe weapons that could not truly hurt anyone. It was good work, important work. But as she drifted off to sleep, Arya could not shake the feeling that something was about to change. Alarms screamed through the training academy at 3 a.m. Arya jolted awake, her heart pounding. Red lights flashed in her quarters, painting everything in harsh crimson pulses. She had never heard this alarm before. It was not a drill. Her communication device buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it and saw Commander Vrel's face on the screen. Behind him, people were running in multiple directions. All combat instructors to the launch bay immediately, Vrel said without greeting. We have a situation. Research Station Delta is under attack. Ravager pirates breached their defenses 20 minutes ago. We are the closest response unit. I'm on my way, Arya said. The screen went dark. She dressed quickly in her combat uniform, fingers fumbling with the fastenings. Ravagers. She had heard stories about them. They were pirates who rejected the Concordance and all its rules. They attacked research stations and transport ships, stealing whatever they could and destroying the rest. They were known for brutality. Arya strapped on her equipment belt and reached for her standard energy pistol. Then she stopped. Her eyes went to the wooden box in her locker. The sword. Should she bring it? It seemed ridiculous to carry an old blade into space combat, but something made her hesitate. Commander Vrel's words from yesterday echoed in her mind. One day you may need to use that blade for real. Was today that day? She grabbed the box and pulled out the sword in its scabbard. The weight felt familiar in her hands. She attached it to her belt opposite the energy pistol. Then she ran. The launch bay was chaos. 20 instructors and 30 advanced students were gathering equipment and boarding small combat ships. Arya found her assigned team near a fast transport called the Swift Runner. 5 others were already there. She recognized 2 of them from other training departments. A pilot named Reed noticed her sword immediately. He was human, one of only 3 other humans at the academy. Is that what I think it is? Family blade, Arya said shortly. She did not want to explain. Not now. An alien with blue scaled skin and long arms spoke up. His name was Torvin. You bring an old cutting tool to a gunfight? Humans are strange. Maybe, Arya replied, but it never needs charging. Commander Vrel's voice boomed across the bay. Listen up. Research Station Delta has 73 people on board. The Ravagers came in fast with 3 ships. Station security is down. Communications are failing. Our job is simple. Get in, evacuate the civilians, and drive out the pirates. We go in 5 teams. Stay with your groups. Watch each other's backs. Move out! Arya's stomach tightened as she climbed into the Swift Runner. This was real. People were dying right now while she sat here. The transport sealed shut and she felt the engines power up. Through the small window, she watched the academy fall away as they shot into space. The journey took 18 minutes. 18 minutes of silence broken only by weapons checks and nervous breathing. Arya's hands wanted to shake, so she gripped her knees to keep them still. Across from her, Reed cleaned his rifle for the 3rd time. Torvin stared at nothing, his scales shifting through different shades of blue. First combat? Asked a soldier sitting next to her. This one was a Lumari, her body made of something that looked like living crystal. Her name was Shard. Yes, Arya admitted. You? 3rd time dealing with Ravagers? They do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. Remember that. Shard's voice was like wind chimes, but her words were heavy. The pilot's voice crackled over the speakers. Research Station Delta in sight. Looks bad. Hull breaches on 3 levels. Ravager ships are still docked. Prepare for hostile boarding. Arya looked out the window. The research station was bigger than she expected. A sprawling complex of connected modules. Smoke poured from several sections. Lights flickered, and docked to it like parasites were 3 dark ships covered in makeshift armor and weapons. The transport shook as it connected to an airlock. Everyone stood and checked their equipment one last time. Arya's hand went to her sword handle. The ancient grip felt solid under her palm. Team 3, you are go. Commander Vrel's voice barked. The airlock door hissed open. Smoke rolled in, making Arya's eyes water. The lights inside the station were emergency red, barely pushing back the darkness. Somewhere in the distance, she heard weapons fire and screaming. Reed took point, his rifle raised. Torvin and Shard followed. Arya found herself in the middle of the group with 2 others behind her. They moved into the station corridor. The floor was slick with something she did not want to identify. The air smelled like burned plastic and fear. Their mission was to reach the residential section and evacuate anyone they found. But first they had to cross through 3 sections of the station. 3 sections that were now hunting grounds for pirates who had killed for a living. They passed a security station. The door was blown open. Inside, 2 bodies lay on the floor. Arya forced herself to look away and keep moving. There was nothing they could do for the dead. The living needed them. Movement ahead, Reed whispered. He pointed to a junction where 2 corridors met. Shadows moved in the flickering light. The team pressed against the walls and advanced slowly. Arya's heart hammered so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Training had never prepared her for this feeling. The knowledge that around the next corner might be someone trying to kill her. A figure stumbled into view. It was a researcher in a torn uniform, blood on her face. She saw the team and gasped in relief. Help, they are everywhere. They killed my friends. Shard moved forward to help the woman. That was when the Ravagers attacked. 3 pirates burst from a side corridor, weapons firing. Energy bolts filled the air. Reed returned fire, his shots wild. One pirate was huge, covered in thick hide. Another had too many arms. The third moved so fast it was just a blur. Arya dove behind a support beam as bolts sizzled past her head. Her training kicked in. She drew her pistol and fired back. One shot clipped the fast-moving pirate, making it howl in pain. But they kept coming. The fight was over in seconds. The pirates retreated down another corridor, leaving one of their own wounded on the floor. But the damage was done. Torvin was hit, clutching his side where a bolt had burned through his armor, and the researcher they had tried to save was not moving. Torvin! Reed dropped beside the injured alien. How bad? Bad, Torvin hissed through clenched teeth. I can walk, but I cannot fight. Arya's hands trembled as she kept her pistol aimed down the corridor. That had been real. Someone had actually tried to kill her. And if she had been slower, if her reflexes had been a fraction weaker, she would be on the floor right now. The thought made her want to throw up, but there was no time for fear. They had a mission. People were counting on them. Arya swallowed hard and forced herself to focus. Training with safe weapons seemed like a different lifetime now. This was the real weight Vrel had warned her about. Blood had a smell that training never taught you about. Arya wiped sweat from her eyes and tried not to think about it. Her team had been moving through the station for 30 minutes now, and every corridor looked the same. Red lights, smoke, and the constant threat of ambush. They had left Torvin with 2 others at a safe point near the entrance. His injury was serious but stable. Now the team was down to 4 people. Reed, Shard, a medic named Alice, and Arya. 4 people trying to reach the residential section where civilians were hiding. Contact left, Reed shouted. Arya spun and fired. 2 pirates were trying to flank them through a maintenance corridor. Her shots forced them back into cover. The team kept moving, not stopping to engage. Their mission was evacuation, not fighting. But the pirates were not letting them pass easily. Every junction brought another fight. Every open door was a potential ambush. Arya had stopped counting how many times she had pulled the trigger. Her pistol was getting hot from overuse. They reached a sealed door marked Residential Section B. Reed checked his scanner. 23 life signs inside. They barricaded themselves in. Can you open it? Arya asked. Working on it. Reed connected a device to the door panel. Numbers flashed across its screen. Shard and Arya took positions watching both directions of the corridor. Alice tended to a small wound on Arya's arm that she had not even noticed getting. Everything was adrenaline and motion. Pain came later. Almost got it, Reed muttered. That was when Arya heard the sound. A deep, rhythmic thumping. Something large was approaching. Something that shook the floor with each step. Reed, hurry, she said quietly. The thumping got louder, closer. Arya raised her pistol, aiming down the corridor. The emergency lights cast everything in shifting shadows. Then she saw it. The pirate was massive, easily 9 feet tall. Its body was covered in thick armored plates that looked natural, like a shell. In its hands, it carried a weapon that was more like a cannon. 4 eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. "Contact!" Arya fired. Her energy bolts hit the creature's armor and scattered harmlessly. It did not even slow down. Shard joined in, her crystalline body glowing as she channeled energy into her shots. Reed abandoned the door and added his rifle fire. The corridor lit up like lightning. But the armored pirate kept coming, raising its cannon. "Move!" Arya screamed. The team scattered. The cannon fired with a roar that made Arya's ears ring. The blast tore through the wall where they had been standing, leaving a smoking crater. The pirate reloaded with mechanical precision. Arya found herself separated from the others, pressed into an alcove barely big enough for one person. The pirate was between her and her team. Its 4 eyes swept the area looking for targets. She checked her pistol. Power at 15%, not enough for a fight against something that shrugged off direct hits. Her mind raced. There had to be a weak point. Armor always had weak points. Joints, neck, eyes. The pirate fired again, this time at Reed's position. The blast made the whole corridor shake. Debris rained down. If they stayed here, that thing would kill them all one by one. Arya's hand dropped to her sword. The weight of it felt real in a way her pistol did not. Close quarters. That was the key. The cannon was powerful but slow. If she could get close enough, fast enough, she could find the weak points. It was insane, charging at something like that with a sword. But her pistol was almost dead. And every second they waited gave the pirate another chance to fire that cannon. Arya thought about her training. All those hours practicing forms. All those lessons about timing and distance. Could she actually do this? The pirate turned its back to her, focusing on where Shard was hiding. This was her chance. Maybe the only one they would get. Arya drew the sword. The blade sang as it left the scabbard, a sound her ancestors would have recognized. The steel gleamed even in the dim red light. She took 1 breath. 2. Then she ran. Her boots barely made sound on the floor. The pirate started to turn, its 4 eyes widening. Too slow. Arya slid under its cannon swing, the blade already moving. She struck at the back of its knee where the armor plates met. The sword bit deep, not through armor but through the gap between plates. Dark blood sprayed. The pirate roared and stumbled. Arya rolled away as it swung wildly, trying to crush her. She came up on the creature's other side. It turned to face her, favoring its injured leg. Arya moved before it could aim the cannon. She struck again, this time at its gun arm. The blade found another gap in the armor. More blood, more roaring. The pirate dropped the cannon and lunged at her with both hands. Arya ducked and spun, using the momentum to strike at its exposed neck. The sword cut clean. The pirate's roar turned into a gurgle. It collapsed, shaking the floor one last time. Arya stood there, breathing hard. Her sword dripped with dark blood. She stared at it, at what she had done. The pirate was dead. She had killed it. The reality hit her like a physical blow. "Arya!" Reed's voice broke through her shock. He and the others emerged from cover, staring at her and the fallen pirate.
"How did you do that?"
She looked at her hands. They were steady. The sword felt natural, like an extension of her arm. All those years of training had become instinct. She had not thought during the fight. She had just moved. "I did what I was trained to do," she said quietly. Shard approached the body and examined it with professional interest. "Your blade cut through Ravager armor. I have never seen anything do that. What is that metal?" "Steel, folded thousands of times. Made the old way." Arya wiped the blade clean on a piece of cloth from her pack. Her hands moved through the motions automatically. "Clean the blade. Honor the weapon," just like her grandmother had taught her. "The door is open," Reed called. He had finished the bypass while Arya fought. The residential section door slid back, revealing frightened faces on the other side. "Concordance Rescue Team," Reed announced. "We are getting you out of here." Arya sheathed her sword and helped organize the evacuation. 23 civilians, including children. They were scared but alive. That was what mattered, not the pirate's blood on her hands or the weight in her chest. These people would see their families again because of what she had done. But as they led the group back toward the transport, Arya could not stop thinking about Commander Vrel's words. The weight of taking a life. She understood now. It was not guilt exactly. It was the knowledge that she had crossed a line. The person who trained with safe weapons was gone. In her place was someone who had killed to protect others. She would never be able to go back to who she was before. News traveled fast on a damaged station. By the time Arya's team delivered the civilians to the evacuation point, everyone had heard about the human instructor with the ancient sword, the one who had killed an armored ravager in close combat. Arya could feel the stares as she passed other rescue teams. Lieutenant Chen, report. Commander Vrel's voice crackled over her communicator. 23 civilians evacuated from Residential B, Commander. 1 team casualty, Torvin, stable condition. We encountered heavy resistance but cleared the path. I heard. The pirates are transmitting warnings about you on their channels. They call you the Steel Demon. Good work, but we have a problem. The main research lab is still occupied. They have hostages in there and the pirate leader is using them as shields. We need someone who can get close without energy weapons setting off the lab's explosive materials. Arya understood immediately. You need me. Your sword does not explode volatile compounds. Can you do this? She looked down at the weapon on her belt. The blade had tasted blood today. Could she use it again? The memory of the armored pirate falling was still fresh. But there were people in that lab who needed help. Yes, sir. I can do it. Good. Team 6 will provide backup at the lab entrance. You go in alone. We will give you 5 minutes before we breach. Make them count. Reed grabbed her arm as she turned to leave. Arya, wait. You do not have to do this alone. We can find another way. There is no other way. Those people in the lab do not have time for us to think of something else. She pulled free gently. Besides, I think I understand now. Why my family kept this sword, why they passed it down. It was waiting for this moment. The journey to the main research lab took 10 minutes through corridors that smelled like burning circuits. Arya moved alone now, her sword drawn and ready. Her pistol was discarded, useless with 0 power. All she had was steel and skill. She met Team 6 at a junction near the lab. They were positioned behind makeshift barriers, weapons trained on the sealed lab door. A Kryn soldier named Bryn briefed her quickly. 8 hostages inside. 6 pirates. Their leader is Skrull, a Draknor. 4 arms, heavy armor, mean as they come. He is demanding a ship and safe passage. Station command is stalling, but we are running out of time. The hostages are scientists. Some are injured. How do I get in? Maintenance shaft. Comes up through the floor in the back of the lab. But Arya, Skrull is not like the others. He has been pirating for 20 years. He knows every trick. Then I will show him something new. Arya found the maintenance shaft and climbed down. The metal tunnel was barely wide enough for her shoulders. She crawled forward in darkness, counting her breaths to stay calm. Above, she could hear voices. The pirates arguing about what to do next. The shaft opened into a storage area at the back of the lab. Arya pulled herself up carefully, her sword clenched between her teeth like pirates in old Earth stories. She crouched behind equipment crates and assessed the situation. The hostages were grouped in the center of the lab, sitting on the floor with their hands bound. They looked terrified but unharmed. 6 pirates stood around them, weapons ready. And in front of them all stood Skrull. The pirate leader was massive. 8 feet tall, reptilian skin covered in thick scales. 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. His eyes were cold and intelligent. This was not a mindless brute. This was a predator who had survived decades of violence. Skrull was talking into a communicator. Your time is up, Concordance. Give me a ship or I start killing hostages. You have 2 minutes. Arya moved between the crates, getting closer. Her mind raced through options. 6 pirates plus their leader. All armed. She had 1 sword and the element of surprise. The math was not good. But she had trained her whole life for this. Every form, every technique, every lesson had led to this moment. She took a deep breath and stepped out from behind the crates. You are not getting a ship, Skrull. 7 heads turned toward her. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Skrull laughed, a deep rumbling sound. The Steel Demon. I heard about you. They said you killed my best soldier with that toy you carry. This toy has been in my family for 200 years. It has seen more battles than you can imagine. Arya raised the sword. The blade caught the lab's bright lights, gleaming like a mirror. Beautiful weapon, Skrull admitted. I will add it to my collection after I kill you. But first, let me show you what real weapons look like. He raised all 4 arms, displaying an energy pistol, a shock rod, a blade that crackled with electricity, and a device she did not recognize. Let the hostages go, Arya said. This is between you and me. Skrull considered this. Then he gestured to his pirates. Get them out. If she wants to die a hero, let her. The pirates herded the hostages toward the main door. Arya heard it open and close. Now it was just her and the 7 pirates in a room full of delicate equipment and explosive compounds. No energy weapons, no backup, just steel and determination. Your friends will breach that door in about 3 minutes, Skrull said casually. We will be gone by then. But you, little human, will be dead. Maybe, Arya replied. Or maybe I will be the one walking out of here. Either way, you are not leaving this station. Skrull's smile vanished. Kill her. The 6 pirates rushed her at once. Arya's training took over. She moved like water, her sword flowing through forms her grandmother had taught her. Block, strike, turn. The first pirate fell. Dodge, cut, pivot. The second went down. Every movement was economy. No wasted energy, no excess motion. But they were many, and she was one. A blade caught her shoulder, tearing through her uniform. Pain flared, but she kept moving. Cannot stop. Stop means death. She spun and her sword found another target. 3 down. 3 to go, plus Skrull. The remaining pirates pulled back, wary now. They had seen what that blade could do. Skrull watched with narrowed eyes. Impressive. But you are bleeding. How long can you keep this up? Arya did not answer. She was breathing hard and her shoulder burned. But her grip on the sword was steady. In her mind, she heard her grandmother's voice. The blade is part of you, trust it. Trust yourself. Skrull stepped forward. Enough games. I will finish this myself. He moved fast for something so large. 4 arms attacked from different angles. Arya blocked the shock rod and dodged the electric blade. His pistol fired and she felt the heat pass her head. The 4th arm held the mystery device and it suddenly sprayed acid. She rolled away as it sizzled on the floor. This was different from the armored pirate. Skrull was skilled, experienced. Every move he made was calculated. Arya found herself being pushed back, defending more than attacking. Her injured shoulder slowed her. Blood ran down her arm. You fight well for a human, Skrull said as their weapons clashed. But you cannot win. I have been doing this since before you were born. Then you should have learned, Arya gasped, that age does not always mean victory. She feinted left, and when Skrull moved to block, she went right. Her sword cut through the arm holding the acid sprayer. It fell to the floor, acid leaking. Skrull roared in pain and rage. 3 arms left. Better odds now. Pain made everything sharper. Arya could feel each drop of sweat running down her face. She could hear Skrull's breathing, heavy and angry. She could smell the acid burning a hole in the lab floor. Every sense was heightened, pushed to its limit. Skrull clutched his severed arm, dark blood pooling around his feet. But he was not finished. The 3 remaining arms still held weapons and his eyes burned with fury. You will pay for that, human, he charged. The shock rod swung at her head while the electric blade came low, trying to cut her legs. The pistol aimed for her chest. 3 attacks at once. Arya's body moved on instinct, dropping under the rod, leaping over the blade, twisting away from the pistol shot. Her sword lashed out and caught Skrull's wrist. The electric blade fell from his grasp, clattering across the floor. 2 arms left. 2 weapons. The odds were evening. You are faster than I expected, Skrull admitted. He circled her slowly, more cautious now. But speed is not everything. I have killed hundreds of warriors. What makes you think you are different? I do not think I am different, Arya said, matching his circle. I think my weapon is. This sword has been carried by warriors who fought when the stakes were life and death. They left their skill in the blade, their courage, their determination. I am not alone when I fight. I carry them all with me. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Skrull's face. Superstition. The blade is just metal. Maybe. But metal that has been folded, shaped, and sharpened with purpose. Purpose matters. Arya shifted her stance. Her shoulder throbbed, but she ignored it. Pain was temporary. Failure was permanent. They moved at the same time. The shock rod hummed through the air. Arya ducked and felt it pass over her head, close enough to make her hair stand on end. She came up inside his reach, too close for the pistol to aim properly. Her sword found the gap under his arm where the scales were thinner. She pushed hard, Skrull screamed. The shock rod fell from nerveless fingers. He stumbled back, leaving the pistol as his only weapon. But his hands were shaking now. Blood loss was taking its toll. He was weakening. Surrender, Arya said. You have lost. Pirates do not surrender, Skrull snarled. But his voice lacked conviction. He knew the truth. He had been beaten by a human instructor with an ancient weapon. The story would spread through the pirate networks. His reputation was destroyed whether he lived or died. He raised the pistol one last time. His hand steadied with what must have been pure willpower. Arya saw his finger tighten on the trigger. She could try to dodge, but she was exhausted. Instead, she did something her training had taught her. She trusted the blade. Her sword moved in a perfect arc. The steel caught the light as it spun through the air. It struck the pistol dead center, knocking it from Skrull's hand. The weapon skittered away, useless. The pirate leader stood there, disarmed and defeated, staring at the human who had bested him. Arya walked forward and picked up her sword from where it had landed. She pointed it at Skrull's throat. "I said surrender." Skrull looked into her eyes and saw something that made him nod slowly. "I surrender." The lab door exploded inward. Team 6 poured through, weapons ready. They stopped when they saw the scene. Pirates dead or wounded on the floor, Skrull on his knees, and Arya standing over him with her sword, blood dripping from both the blade and her shoulder. Commander Vrel entered last. His forearms hung loose at his sides as he surveyed the aftermath. "Lieutenant Chen, status?" "Hostages evacuated. Pirate leader captured. Lab secured." Arya's voice was steady despite her exhaustion. "Mission accomplished, sir." Vrel approached Skrull. Two soldiers hauled the massive alien to his feet and restrained him. The pirate leader looked at Arya one more time. "What is your name, human?" "Lieutenant Arya Chen, Concordance Training Academy." "I will remember it. And so will every pirate from here to the Outer Rim." The human with the steel blade who defeated Skrull the Unbreakable. There was no anger in his voice now, only respect. They took him away. Medics rushed to Arya, but she waved them off. "Take care of the wounded first." "I can wait." Reed appeared at her side. "Arya, you are bleeding everywhere." "It looks worse than it is." She sheathed her sword carefully, the familiar motion calming her racing heart. "Are the hostages safe?" "All safe. Minor injuries, but they will recover, thanks to you." Reed shook his head in amazement. 7 pirates, including Skrull. With just a sword, how? "Training," Arya said simply, "and maybe a little bit of luck." But it was more than that, and she knew it. It was 200 years of family tradition. It was every warrior who had carried this blade before her, lending their strength. It was the knowledge that sometimes the old ways still had value in a universe of advanced technology. Commander Vrel approached again. "The station is secure. All pirates are either dead, captured, or fleeing. Total casualties on our side, 4 injured, none critical. Civilian casualties, 6 dead before we arrived, 18 injured. It could have been much worse." "The 6 who died," Arya said quietly. "I wish we had arrived sooner." "We cannot save everyone, Lieutenant. But we saved most. That is what matters." Vrel looked at her sword. "I was wrong about tradition. I thought holding on to the past made species weak. But you showed me that remembering where you come from can make you stronger. Your ancestors would be proud." Those words meant more to Arya than any medal could. She nodded, not trusting her voice to remain steady. The adrenaline was fading now, leaving exhaustion and pain in its wake. A medic finally convinced her to sit down and treat her shoulder. As they worked, Arya watched the rescue operation continue. Teams moved through the station, helping survivors and clearing debris. Ships arrived to transport the wounded to proper medical facilities. Order was slowly being restored from chaos. Shard sat down beside her. The crystalline alien's body was cracked in several places, but she seemed unconcerned. "You have started something today, Arya. The news is spreading fast. A human instructor defeated Skrull with a blade forged on Earth. Every species in the Concordance will hear this story." "I just did what needed to be done," Arya protested. "Exactly, and that is why it matters. You did not hesitate. You did not wait for someone else to solve the problem. You stepped forward with an ancient weapon and showed us all that courage and skill transcend technology." Shard's voice chimed softly. "Do you know what my people say? The truest weapon is the warrior's heart. Today you proved that." Arya looked down at her sword. The blade was clean again, ready for whatever came next. She thought about all the battles it had seen, all the warriors who had trusted their lives to its edge. Now she was one of them. She had earned her place in that long line of protectors. "Come on," Reed said, offering his hand. "Transport is ready to take us back to the academy. You need real medical attention and about 12 hours of sleep." Arya let him pull her to her feet. Her legs were shaky, but they held. She followed her team to the transport, aware of the eyes watching her. Respect. That was what she saw in those gazes. The kind of respect that had to be earned, not given. As the transport lifted off from the damaged station, Arya took one last look at Research Station Delta. People had died there today. But many more had lived. And somewhere in the galaxy, pirates were learning that humans were not to be underestimated. That even in a universe of energy weapons and advanced technology, a warrior with a sharp blade and sharper determination could change the outcome of battle. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Research Station Delta. Arya stood in front of her class again, but everything felt different now. The training hall was the same. The students were the same. Even her teaching methods had not changed. But she had changed, and everyone knew it. The class had doubled in size. Students from every department wanted to learn from the instructor who had defeated Skrull. Arya found herself teaching not just combat techniques, but philosophy. Why humans valued honor, why tradition mattered, why the old ways still had meaning. Today's lesson was different from usual. Arya stood at the front of the hall with 2 weapons on the table before her. One was a training saber, its blade glowing softly blue. The other was her family sword, resting in its scabbard. "Who can tell me the difference between these 2 weapons?" she asked the class. Ratch raised his clawed hand. "One is safe. One is dangerous." "True, but that is not the most important difference." Arya picked up the training saber. "This weapon teaches you technique without consequences. You can make mistakes and learn from them. It prepares you for combat." She set it down and picked up the sword. "This weapon teaches you responsibility. Every time you draw it, you accept the weight of what it can do. It demands respect. It demands that you understand the difference between training and reality." Prill spoke up from her water suit. "Instructor Chen, you said the real sword demands respect. But is it not just a tool? Why should we respect a tool? Because this tool can end lives. Because using it means accepting that you might have to hurt someone to protect others. That weight, that responsibility is what makes warriors different from fighters. Fighters learn techniques. Warriors learn wisdom." The class was silent, absorbing this. Arya sheathed the sword and continued. "When I was where you are now, sitting in classes and training with safe weapons, I did not truly understand what I was learning. I knew the forms. I knew the moves. But I did not know what it meant to use them for real." "What changed?" asked the Rock Bear student. "Reality changed me. When people's lives depended on my skills, I learned that training is not just about technique. It is about building the foundation you need when everything falls apart. When you are scared. When you are hurt. When giving up would be easier than continuing." Arya walked among the students. "That is why we train with safe weapons. Not because real ones are too dangerous to learn with, but because safe weapons let you fail without dying. Every mistake you make here is a lesson you will remember when the stakes are real. Value that. Respect it." After class, several students stayed to ask questions. They wanted to hear about the battle, about Skrull, about what it felt like to fight for survival. Arya answered honestly, neither glorifying the violence nor hiding from what she had done. When the last student left, Commander Vrel entered. "You have become quite popular, Lieutenant. I hear students from the engineering department are signing up for blade training." "Word spreads fast," Arya said with a slight smile. "It does. And speaking of that, the Concordance Council has approved a new curriculum. Traditional combat arts from member species will now be taught alongside modern weapons training. Your demonstration of their effectiveness convinced them." Arya felt a swell of pride. "That is good news. Many species have rich martial traditions. It would be a shame to lose them." "There is more." Vrel held out a small box. "The Council has commissioned this for you, as recognition of your service at Research Station Delta." Arya opened the box. Inside was a medal, but beside it was something unexpected. A small display stand made of crystal. "What is this?" "A stand for your family sword. The Council believes it should be displayed in the Academy's main hall, as a symbol of courage, tradition, and the value of remembering where we come from. If you approve, of course." Arya looked at her sword, thinking, it had always been private, a family treasure kept close. But maybe it was time to share what it represented. Maybe other warriors needed to see that tradition had power, that the old ways could coexist with new technology. "I approve," she said, "but on one condition. It should not be just my sword. Every species that wants to contribute a traditional weapon should be able to. Make it a gallery of warrior traditions, not just a monument to one battle. Vrel's expression was approving. Wise, I will propose it to the council. I suspect they will agree. He left, and Arya was alone with her thoughts. She walked to the window and looked out at space. Ships moved between stars, carrying people to countless destinations. Somewhere out there, Research Station Delta was being rebuilt. The survivors were recovering. Life continued. Her communicator buzzed. It was a message from her family on Earth. They had heard about what happened. Her grandmother had sent a video message. Arya played it, seeing the old woman's weathered face appear on the screen. Arya, my dear warrior, I heard you carried the family blade in battle and brought honor to our name. I am proud of you, not because you won, but because you understood what the sword represents. It is not just a weapon. It is a reminder that we carry our ancestors with us, that their courage lives in our hearts. The old woman smiled. You have earned your place in our family's story. When you return to Earth, I will teach you the next level of forms, the ones only warriors who have truly fought can learn. The message ended. Arya felt tears on her cheeks, but she was smiling. Her grandmother understood. She always had. The sword was not about violence or glory. It was about connection. Connection to the past, to family, to the long line of people who had faced fear and found courage. That evening, Arya attended a ceremony in the Academy's main hall. The crystal stand was unveiled, and she placed her sword upon it. Around her stood representatives from dozens of species, each bringing their own traditional weapons. A Kryn battle staff, a Lumari energy whip, a Vrex crystal blade. More were coming. Commander Vrel spoke to the assembled crowd. These weapons represent something important. They remind us that technology advances, but the spirit of the warrior remains constant. Honor, courage, sacrifice. These values transcend species and time. Let this gallery stand as a testament to all who serve and protect. Applause filled the hall. Arya stood quietly, watching people examine the weapons. Students pointed and asked questions. Veterans nodded in recognition. Everyone was learning just as she had learned. Reed found her in the crowd. How does it feel, knowing your sword will inspire generations of warriors? Strange, Arya admitted. But good. Maybe someone will look at it and realize that their traditions have value, that they should not forget where they came from even as they reach for the stars. You have changed things here, Reed said. Not just the curriculum or the gallery. You have changed how people think about humans. Before, many saw us as newcomers trying to prove ourselves. Now they see us as equals, as warriors with our own proud history. All I did was use what my family taught me. Exactly. And that was enough. Weeks turned into months. The gallery grew as more species contributed weapons. Arya continued teaching, now with renewed purpose. Her classes were no longer just about technique. They were about understanding the responsibility that came with power, about respecting both the safety of training and the weight of real combat. Students who had trained with her began graduating and joining concordant security forces. They carried with them the lessons she had taught. Some even adopted their own species' traditional weapons, inspired by her example. One day, Arya received a message from an unexpected source. Skrull, now imprisoned on a concordance penal station, had requested to speak with her. She was not sure what to expect as she took the communication call. The pirate leader appeared on the screen, looking smaller somehow without his weapons and freedom. Lieutenant Chen, I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For defeating you? For showing me mercy? You could have killed me, should have by pirate law. But you let me surrender. That gave me time to think about my choices, about the path I took. Skrull's voice was serious. I will spend many years in prison, but I will spend them alive with a chance to become something other than a pirate. You gave me that chance. Arya did not know what to say. She had not thought about the long-term impact of her decision to spare him. She had just known that killing a defeated enemy went against everything her family's sword represented. Use the time well, she said finally. Become the person you should have been. I will try. The screen went dark. Arya sat back in her chair thinking about the conversation. Warriors were not just about fighting. They were about making the hard choices, about understanding when to strike and when to show mercy. Her grandmother had taught her that, though she had not truly understood it until she held a real blade over a defeated enemy. That night she visited the gallery. Her sword rested on its crystal stand, gleaming in the soft light. Around it were weapons from across the galaxy, each with its own story. But hers had a new chapter now, the chapter where it had been drawn in defense of the innocent, where it had defeated a legendary pirate, where it had taught a lesson about tradition and honor. Arya reached out and touched the scabbard gently. "Thank you," she whispered to the blade and to all who had carried it before, "for being there when I needed you, for teaching me what I needed to know. I will honor you and pass on what you have taught me." Footsteps echoed in the hall. Arya turned to see a young student approaching. The alien was new, barely a week at the academy. She looked at the weapons with wide eyes full of wonder. "Instructor Chen?" the student asked shyly. "Is it true you defeated Skrull with that sword?" "Yes, but that is not the important part of the story." "What is the important part?" Arya smiled. "The important part is that I trained with safe weapons for years before I ever needed the real one. The important part is that I learned not just how to fight, but why to fight. And the most important part is that when the moment came, I was ready. Not because I was special, but because I had prepared. That is what this gallery teaches: preparation, tradition, and respect for the responsibility we carry as warriors." The student nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I want to learn that, to be ready like you were." "Then come to class tomorrow. Bring your practice weapon and an open mind. I will teach you everything I know, and someday you will teach others. That is how tradition survives. That is how we honor those who came before us." The student left with a determined expression. Arya watched her go, then looked back at the sword one more time. It had served her well. It had saved lives. And now it would inspire future generations. That was legacy. That was what the blade had always been about. She walked out of the gallery and back to her quarters. Tomorrow would bring new students, new lessons, new challenges. But she was ready. She had been tested and had not been found wanting. She had drawn her family's real sword and had used it with honor. That knowledge gave her strength for whatever lay ahead. As Arya drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of her ancestors. They stood in a line stretching back through time, each one holding the sword. And at the end of that line, future generations reached forward, waiting for their turn to carry it. The blade would continue. The tradition would continue. And somewhere in the galaxy, warriors would remember that the old ways still had power, still had meaning, still had worth. That was her gift to the future. That was her story's true ending.